Yeah, and Mark Leibovich, you wrote about this town, a look into Washington in the before times. It's interesting 1 year in, people who were saying, well, I thought it was going to be bad, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad. People that mocked never Trump Republicans, people who accused others of having Trump derangement syndrome. It seems 1 year in, many of those people are now not so shocked by concerns constantly raised about Donald Trump. Here we look at what's happening in Minneapolis. We look at what's happening regarding Greenland. We look at what's happening in the president's mind in the middle of the night by pictures that he posts that imagines him standing, planting a flag in Greenland, or making Venezuela, Canada, Greenland, all part of the United States. And Mara's question, the question asks itself, where are the Republicans? They understand that these provocations are undermining an 80-year alliance that they all believe in, have all believed in, have all spoken favorably about throughout their entire political lives. Now they sit back saying nothing, as every small government instinct is trampled, from an almost $39 trillion national debt to these arrests of American citizens and others who have constitutional rights, to the destruction possibly of NATO.
I mean, first of all, this is where, in some ways, the NATO story, the Greenland story, and the Minneapolis story merge. I mean, you can talk about an 80-year idea, which is NATO, or the history of this alliance, which is obviously, formative to the American story, to 21st century history, and so forth. But we're talking about a 250-year-old idea, which is America, which is the idea of what we're seeing in Minneapolis right now is, I mean, I can echo what everyone has said here, Gene and Maya and everyone, about what this looks like and how outrageous it is, and the question of where are Republicans. But listen, I mean, on a purely political standpoint, I mean, the pictures here are devastating for everyone, but particularly for the president and Republicans. I mean, the worst thing about this politically is that there are pictures associated with it, there are victims associated with it, and it's very easy to feel, especially when you see how cold it is out there. So to me, I mean, in addition to everything else, this is, I think, justifiably a very big political issue for them at this point.
And also, I think you have to look at the whole picture. Obviously, Lebo was talking about what this looks like, and this may be in the realm of small things if you want to try and be in denial about that. But if you look at the behavior concerning the FIFA award, the first ever peace award, the Kennedy Center, what's going on there, the Nobel Prize, how he's invoking it toward Greenland and why he's taking Greenland, but also taking a Nobel Prize that someone else won, when the Nobel Committee itself says that is not valid, but he wants the prize. Just think about what that looks like. And ahead of President Trump's arrival at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Belgium's prime minister says that Europe is at a crossroads and that 80 years of Atlanticism could be drawing to a close. Trump has said he will make it clear to European leaders during his speech at Davos tomorrow that the U.S. will, quote, have to have Greenland, and that there's, quote, no going back.
Let's go live to Davos and bring in the co-anchor of CNBC's Squawk Box and the New York Times columnist, Andrew Ross Sorkin. Andrew, all morning we've been talking about what a potent economic power our NATO allies are, that if you combine the EU and Great Britain, you've got $25 trillion worth of GDP per year. The United States, $30 trillion per year. China, only $20 trillion per year. But right now, you look at Mark Carney going to China. I'm wondering how many European leaders are going to start looking east, saying we can't depend on a man who is constantly provoking us every night, talking about seizing our land. At least China's not doing that. I mean, what are the great economic risks that you're hearing discussed in Davos right now?
I mean, I can't tell you just it is topic A, B, and C here in Davos, and it's not just political leaders, it's business leaders given the question about now tariffs on European countries and what comes next. It's also potentially the tipping point. I think for a long time people have waited for what is the tipping point at which things become more complicated. You're seeing it in the markets, by the way. The market's down materially this morning. And I think when you look at that letter that the president sent, the reaction to it, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, I think people are looking at that and saying, this is different. And I think we're going to hear a lot more from the president when he gets here tomorrow. Of course, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, taking the issue on this morning and yesterday. But as I said, I can't move, more than a couple steps without Greenland being the topic across the board.
Well, and Andrew, it's fascinating and discouraging the contempt that you talked about Scott Bessent, but just the contempt people in the Trump administration have for Europe. Scott Bessent mocking them, saying they love sitting around talking, having meetings. I hear it inside the Trump White House all the time. Just absolute contempt for Europe, like it's some declining power. Let me say this again. Their GDP, along with Great Britain's combined, is close to $25 trillion. That is more than China and Russia's combined. What world are they living in?
Well, the world they're living in is they think that they are living under the thumb of President Trump at the moment. I think a lot of them are waiting to hear what the Supreme Court says as it relates to tariffs. We may get a decision as early as today on that. That could re-scramble the situation to some degree, but as we've discussed, it's very possible that the Trump administration is able to continue to implement tariffs potentially in a different way and for a more temporary approach. It might actually prevent something like what's happening now as it relates to the Greenland situation. We're going to see. But I can't stress enough to you just the real angst among CEOs and among the political class here about what's taking place in the United States and what it portends for the rest of the world. And, of course, longer term, what it portends for the relationship with the rest of the world. And this, of course, happening, by the way, as the president is expected to tout the 250th birthday anniversary, if you will, of the United States here tomorrow.
He's going to have his own party, too, with the boxing match. CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin live from Davos, Switzerland. Thank you. Andrew pointed out that this feels different to a lot of folks that he's talking to in Davos, and that might be so for billionaires or for Europe. But when you think about it, different from what? Canada is the 51st state, tariffs, retribution, bringing charges randomly up on people, ICE traumatizing American cities, bringing the National Guard in to fight American cities. Which is going to be the one is the question.
By the way, telling generals and admirals, hey, we can actually practice our military tactics on Americans in American cities. He said that at that meeting where they called together all the generals and admirals. So again, the Supreme Court, so much of this is on the Supreme Court sitting back saying nothing, doing nothing, not ruling on tariffs, allowing Donald Trump when he gets upset with a foreign country because they won't just hand him like land, the threatening of tariffs, and if somebody stands up for that foreign country, an ally, a close ally, then he threatens other allies that are saying they will stand with the ally Donald Trump is threatening. And then on top of that, what's happening in Minneapolis, what continues to happen with the threat of sending troops to American cities. All this is it is so un-American. It is so unconstitutional.
It's right in front of you.
And it is so right in front of the Roberts Court. And they sit back and they say nothing and they do nothing. And so much of the chaos that you've been seeing over the past 6 months could have been so easily cleared up by the Roberts Court, if they had simply told the truth and acted quickly on tariffs, what they know to be the law on tariffs, if they had stepped forward and said what they knew the law was on using American troops for domestic policing, they know that's illegal. They know that's unconstitutional. And yet they continue to do nothing. A temporary order at the end of the year, not enough. Not enough. They need to not even close the door on these actions. They need to reaffirm the law of the land. And they're too scared to even do that.